first question that will start with Mr. Paxton. He'll have 2 minutes, and each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to answer the first question, 1 minute for every question after that. Over the course of the past decade, there has been a substantial decrease in per-student funding from the state of Texas to the school districts. Currently, per the January 2018 Education Week study, Texas is considered 40th out of 50 states in such expenditures. In addition, the TEA recently recommended further cuts to state funding for education to the tune of an additional $3.5 billion. The shortfall, the TEA explained, would be funded by an increase in property taxes due to forecasted increases in appraisal values. Number one, do you believe the state should continue to cut funding to education and rely even more on local property taxes? And number two, what is your funding plan for education for the next 2, 4, and 6 years? Mr. Paxton?
Thank you. So I want to start right off the bat with a clarification on the question. The $3.5 billion cut mentioned in the question is only what is known as a legislative appropriations request. This is a preliminary estimate that the agency gives the legislature and is not actually what is finally appropriated. In fact, the legislature always, as you know, with any appropriation item, has to have a final say on what is appropriated. And I imagine that this will look radically different from what the TEA has given us. And this is one thing that we'll have to take into account as we look at a new funding model for school finance. So no one's getting cut today. I would also like to take a second to challenge the notion that the legislature is always cutting funding, because we hear this narrative pretty consistently when, in fact, over the last several sessions, the legislature has appropriated for enrollment growth and inflation year over year. The legislature also increased the basic allotment as recently as 2015. What is changing is the ratio of state funding to local funding, but this only illustrates that ISDs are taxing and spending more, not that the legislature is spending less. Also, as a mechanical note, I would like to say the appropriations process with our school finance formula has always dictated that local property tax revenue goes into the system first, with the state funding added on top. So to say that the state legislature is raising property taxes is somewhat misleading logic. Also, local governments set your property taxes, period, end of story. Given the complexity and the gravity of this issue, Senator Burton was proud to support the creation of a Commission on Public School Finance to examine the system and make reform recommendations. The Senate led the way on creating this body, and we are in the process of finding solutions. We look forward to hearing your proposals. Last and final point, I see I'm out of time with that. Okay, then I'll stop.
Thank you very much. Candidate Pat, would you like to answer the same question?
Yes, and thank you for the question. First, I want to tell you that I look at this group and I see a well-informed group of voters. And I think, so I'm going to cut to the chase and I'm going to say that I agree with Democratic candidate for Lieutenant Governor Mike Collier and with Tarrant County Judge Glenn Whitley that the state must return to paying 50% of the costs associated with funding our schools. And there is no district that understands that any better than Colville Grapevine. We should stop talking about voucher schemes that will deplete public school funds in Senate District 10 alone by over $50 million. It is time for us to do a strict line item review of our state budget to assess where we might accomplish adding some extra funding to public schools. We need to close the equal and uniform tax loophole to return $5 billion to the state budget to try and fund the shortfall in school budgets. We need to clean up the waste and the corruption and the cronyism in the HHSC department that costs Texas millions of dollars every year. And it is time to appoint a board of education experts to completely